Hi guys, Mr. Holmes here, just explaining a little bit about your weather resistance part of your work. And the first part I'm going to talk to you about is window falls. So on this window here, you've got the window fall. So you've got your window coming down the top here, and then at the bottom, we've got the window fall at the bottom. The idea is the rain rolls all the way down the glass, it rolls onto the window ledge, down the window fall, and then instead of then going underneath and then rolling down the brickwork, which would damage all the mortar, it gets to the end of the window fall and drips off the edge of the window. Okay, so underneath the fall, just here, is the drip. So when you look at it from the edge, you'll see this little ridge just here underneath, that runs all the way along underneath the fall. The idea of the drip is that when you pour water, or when it rains, the water runs down the sill, runs off the edge, and any water that doesn't run off the edge, that goes underneath the sill, then hits the drip and is forced to run down and drop onto the floor, rather than running down the wall and damaging the mortar. So it reduces the amount of water that goes down the wall and damages the mortar. This time I'm going to be looking at flashing. Flashing is when we use a piece of metal. We used to use lead, we now tend to use aluminium because people used to steal lead from things like church roofs. Now the idea of flashing is it seals any open gaps in your roof around the tiles. Okay guys, on this house you can see that the chimney is coming out the centre of the roof. You can see at the bottom of the chimney, all the way around here, it's got this metal work. The idea of this metal, that's called the flashing. It stops any water from getting down the edge of the chimney and in any gaps between the chimney and the tiles, so it keeps that roof space nice and watertight. When you're building roofs, you need to make the edge of the roof, where it meets the brickwork, look a little bit tidier. So what we do there is we fit things called fascias and soffits. So on this house you can see a fascia board, and this is the fascia board that goes across there. It's the section that the guttering is attached to. So the roof rafters come down from the top, and the fascia board sits in front of the roof rafters to hide the roof rafters. It also provides a strong piece of material that you can attach the guttering. The second thing I want to show you is a soffit. Now the reason we have a soffit is because where the roof meets the walls, sometimes it overhangs a little bit, and that can create a gap where air can get into your roof space. So we use a soffit to seal that gap, and sometimes they ventilate it to help make sure we get a little bit of ventilation in your roof. This part here is what we call the soffit. In this case it's been built in using cement. Sometimes they use pieces of wood to cover that gap, sometimes they will use PVC plastic to cover that gap. The place where the drafts and water can get into your house are through exterior doors. So we can do two things to try and minimise that, try and stop the drafts and stop water getting in. One of them is to use weather seals, and one of them is to use weathering strips. So on this external door, what they've used is a weather seal. So if I open the door, you can see this piece of black material running all the way down there. It's a hollow piece of rubber, so when the door closes together it squashes on the rubber and creates a seal between the door and the door frame, and that seal will stop any water or drafts getting in through the door, helping keep your house that little bit warmer. So in this picture you've got a roll of weather strip. It's basically a thin piece of foam that's got one side of it that is sticky back. Okay, this is where the weather strip is being added to the edge of a door. It's low cost, but it doesn't last very long. You probably get maybe 2-3 years out of it before you need to replace it. So it will stop drafts, it will stop water from getting in, but it's not a long lasting method of solving the issue of drafts and water. So this is a picture of a standard UK fascia. So you can see the fascia at the front there and the soffit underneath there, and you'll see that the soffit is quite narrow. It doesn't go a very long distance. It doesn't create much of an overhang. Whereas in some countries they will use a much wider soffit, so the soffit goes much further out. Now the idea of that is when the sun comes down onto the house, so the sun comes down onto here, it creates an area of shade underneath the soffit, and that helps keep the inside of the house a little bit cooler. It also makes any rain that comes down the roof drop off the end of the fascia further away from the side of the house, protecting the brickwork even more. So you've got all the information you need now to have a go at slide 1 and slide 2 to try and explain the different weather resistant features when building a house. So have a go at those 2 slides, and then once you've done that, also have a go at the exam questions that have come from some past exam papers. Good luck with it, guys, and I look forward to seeing your answers.